You are standing at the threshold of an unseen river, one that carries with it more wealth, more opportunities, and more prosperity than you have yet experienced. This river is already flowing in your direction. Your part is not to force its current, not to demand when or how it arrives, but to remain open to receive it. Wealth is not something you chase. It is something you allow. It begins as an inner conviction, a quiet knowing that life is abundant and that you are part of that abundance. When you feel rich in consciousness, when you walk, speak, and think as though your supply is already overflowing, you magnetize external evidence that matches that inner wealth. But notice this. Many people unknowingly turn away the very prosperity moving toward them because they hold on to doubt, fear, or small ideas of what is possible. They cling to old assumptions. I've never been lucky, or it's too hard to make money. And by doing so, they build walls around their own river. Let those walls fall. Wealth doesn't need your struggle. It needs your readiness. Imagine for a moment that you already have the financial freedom you've long desired. See yourself living as though it's done. Bills paid with ease, choices made without fear, generosity flowing naturally from you. Feel it as real, not as a distant dream, but as a present fact. The more you dwell in that feeling, the faster life rearranges itself to meet you there. And when the evidence begins to appear, and it will, it may not look like the picture you first imagined. Opportunities might come disguised as small chances, new people, or ideas that seem simple but open massive doors. Stay open. Stay receptive. If you insist it must come in one specific way, you might miss the wealth that's already trying to reach you. Right now, unseen forces are aligning to deliver resources, connections, and possibilities that will exceed what you believe is possible. All you must do is assume it's already in motion, live as though it's true, and allow yourself to receive without resistance. Massive wealth is not far away. It's moving toward you even now. Stay open. True riches do not start with numbers on a bank statement, assets on paper, or anything that can be measured in material form. They begin in the quiet realm of your own consciousness. Wealth is first a state of being, an inner atmosphere that you cultivate long before external evidence appears. If you do not hold abundance within, even large sums of money can feel insufficient. Conversely, when you embody wealth internally, circumstances eventually bend to mirror that inner conviction. This understanding shifts the way you approach prosperity. Most people are taught to see money as the source of security, power, and opportunity. They chase it, strive for it, and worry about its absence. Yet chasing wealth often reinforces the belief that you do not already have it. You live from a sense of lack, and life responds in kind. The deeper truth is that life reflects your dominant assumptions. If you feel small, your results shrink. If you feel abundant, your outer world begins to arrange itself around that assumption. What does it mean to feel wealthy when the evidence is not yet there? It means choosing thoughts that align with sufficiency instead of scarcity. It means refusing to identify yourself as someone who never has enough, and instead quietly affirming, I live in an abundant universe and I am supported. At first, this shift may feel unnatural. Your mind may argue, look at the bills. Look at the account balance. Look at the reality. But external reality is not the cause, it is the effect. The cause is always your inner state. When you adopt the state of wealth, you carry yourself differently. Your posture changes, your choices change. You are less reactive to fear-based decisions. You begin to notice opportunities that once slipped past you because you are focused on survival rather than expansion. People respond to you differently because they sense confidence rather than desperation. This is not about pretending or faking success. It is about inhabiting the mental and emotional qualities that genuine abundance produces. Consider how someone who knows they are financially secure moves through the world. They do not cling to every dollar. They do not panic at every unexpected expense. And they certainly do not speak constantly about not having enough. Their words, feelings, and actions flow from an assumption of sufficiency. You can begin to adopt that same inner posture now, even before your outer circumstances match it. You may still budget carefully, you may still work hard, but you no longer do it from fear. You do it from strength. Wealth as a state of being also requires releasing envy and comparison. If you see someone else thriving and feel resentment, you reinforce the idea that abundance is limited and that another person's gain reduces your own chances. In truth, the universe does not operate on a fixed supply. The fact that others are prospering is proof that wealth is available. It is evidence that it can flow to anyone willing to align with it. Start by practicing gratitude for what you already have, however small it may seem. Gratitude is not simply a moral exercise, it is a practical one. When you notice what is already present, you shift your emotional state. That shift raises your perception, allowing you to see opportunities and ideas you might have ignored in a mindset of lack. Over time, consistent gratitude builds the very inner abundance that later translates into outer wealth. Ultimately, money is a byproduct, not the foundation. If you focus only on the numbers, you may accumulate temporary success, yet still feel poor, worried about losing it, striving endlessly to maintain it. When wealth becomes your inner state first, external gains arrive with greater stability because they are anchored in a deeper belief that you are already enough, that life is already generous, and that your well-being is not fragile. When you hold that conviction, physical wealth has no choice but to meet you there. Everything you see around you, every building, invention, work of art, and technological advancement, existed first as an image in someone's mind. Reality does not originate outside of you. It begins in the inner world of imagination. What you consistently see, feel, and accept as true in your mind must eventually take form in your outer life. This is no poetic metaphor, it is a principle of creation. Most people believe they are reacting to life as it happens, shaping their thoughts and emotions based on external events. But the sequence actually runs in the opposite direction. Your inner imagery and assumptions set the stage for the experiences you later call real. You are not merely an observer of reality, you are a participant in its making, whether consciously or unconsciously. Think of a time when you worried intensely about something that had not yet happened. You may have played out scenarios, imagined conversations, or felt the physical tension as if the event were real. Often those exact circumstances, or something very close to them, unfolded later. The same mechanism works in the opposite direction for positive outcomes. When you repeatedly imagine yourself succeeding, feeling confident and achieving your goals, you begin to act and respond in ways that align with that vision. People notice. Circumstances shift. What began as an invisible picture starts becoming visible. This process does not require force. You do not have to manipulate others or struggle to make life match your imagination. Your role is to hold the mental image with consistency and emotion, trusting that life's events are fluid enough to rearrange themselves around your inner state. The clearer and more natural your imagined scenes feel, the faster they influence your choices, behaviors, and ultimately the opportunities that appear. But here is where most people falter. They imagine briefly, then cancel it with doubt. They may spend a minute picturing wealth, love, or success, and then spend the next hour thinking, it's never going to happen, it's too late, I don't see any way this could work. That is like planting a seed and immediately digging it up to check if it's growing. True creative imagination involves persistence. You continue to return to your chosen mental picture, regardless of current evidence. Another key element is emotional involvement. Simply thinking words like, I want to be successful, carries little power if it is flat and detached. You must feel it as though it's already real. Hear the sounds, see the details, and sense the satisfaction of living in that future. When your mind believes it is experiencing something now, your body and actions begin to align with that belief. From there, outer events catch up. It is important to note that imagination is always creating, not just when you sit quietly and visualize. Every casual daydream, every mental complaint, and every what-if scenario shapes your state of mind. Repeated states become patterns, and patterns become experiences. That is why discipline over your inner world matters. You cannot always control what appears in your mind initially, but you can choose what you continue to entertain. Start practicing deliberate imagination by choosing one specific outcome you desire. Create a short mental scene that implies that desire is already fulfilled. For example, receiving congratulations, signing a contract, or feeling the relief of a paid-off debt. Replay it often, especially when your mind wanders toward worry or scarcity. Over time, this scene will feel familiar, almost like a memory rather than a wish. That feeling of already done is the point where imagination begins turning into reality. Everything physical is temporary, everything imagined is the blueprint that precedes it. When you learn to shape your inner images consciously, you stop waiting for circumstances to decide your life and start directing them from within. Reality has no choice but to follow the pictures you consistently hold. Wealth, opportunities, and success are naturally trying to reach you, yet most people unconsciously push them away. The barrier is rarely a lack of intelligence, talent, or even effort. It is resistance. Doubt, fear, and the constant need to control every outcome act as invisible walls that keep abundance from flowing into your life. Letting go of that resistance is not about giving up. It is about creating space for what you want to arrive. Resistance shows up in subtle ways. You may affirm that you want financial freedom, but simultaneously worry daily about bills. You may visualize a thriving business, but mentally replay every reason it might fail. You may say you trust life, but still micromanage every detail, believing that if you don't hold it all together, everything will collapse. Each of these reactions sends the same signal. I don't believe I can truly have what I desire. That signal shapes your choices, narrows your vision, and delays the very outcomes you are seeking. When you hold doubt or fear, your mind and body stay tense. In that state, creativity shrinks, intuition goes quiet, and opportunities pass unnoticed. You might miss connections, ignore ideas, or sabotage chances simply because your focus is locked on what could go wrong. Letting go of resistance means loosening that mental grip. It means trusting that the path to wealth does not need constant force or frantic action. Instead, it responds to clarity, confidence, and openness. One powerful way to release resistance is to stop demanding that you know exactly how your desire will unfold. The how is rarely yours to control. If you insist on one specific route, you may block faster or better ones that you cannot yet see. Imagine trying to catch water by clenching your fist. It slips away. Open your hand and it fills naturally. The same principle applies here. The more you try to force, the more life pushes back. The more you allow, the easier it flows. This does not mean you stop acting altogether. It means your actions shift in quality. Instead of coming from panic or scarcity, I must do this or I'll fail, your steps arise from calm certainty. I am already moving toward what is mine. That internal difference is noticeable. People respond better to you, decisions become clearer, and results arrive with less struggle. Another layer of resistance comes from old beliefs about worthiness. If you secretly feel undeserving, you may unconsciously repel wealth even as you claim to want it. You might overspend, undercharge, avoid opportunities, or choose situations that keep you small. To release that hidden resistance, practice affirming your own value daily. Remind yourself, it is safe for me to prosper. I'm allowed to receive. Abundance benefits me and those around me. These thoughts may feel uncomfortable at first if you're used to self-limiting stories, but over time they rewire the very foundation that determines what you allow into your life. Pay attention to how you feel when you think about your financial goals. If your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, or your stomach knots, that's resistance. Instead of ignoring it, pause and soften, breathe. Imagine releasing control, as though you are setting a heavy bag down after carrying it for too long. That emotional release is not weakness, it is power. It clears the space for solutions, ideas, and resources to appear. Wealth does not come through tension. It comes when you align with it internally and stop fighting unseen battles in your mind. The moment you release fear, drop the need to control, and trust that abundance is already moving toward you, life begins to bring you what your struggle never could. To live from the end means to mentally and emotionally occupy the reality you desire before it appears physically. Instead of waiting for external proof to feel wealthy, secure, or free, you adopt the inner position that it is already yours. You act, think, and carry yourself as though the result you seek has already been achieved. This is not about pretending in the sense of empty play acting. It is about embodying the state of being that naturally produces your desired outcome. Most people live the opposite way. They respond to their current circumstances, letting bank balances, job titles, and external events dictate how they feel and what they believe is possible. If their finances look limited, they think limited thoughts and take actions that keep them there. If life offers no immediate sign of progress, they assume nothing is changing. By reacting to the present, they unintentionally perpetuate it. Living from the end breaks that cycle. Ask yourself, how would I think, speak, and behave if I already had the wealth I desire? Would you worry about small inconveniences? Would you constantly talk about what you lack? Likely not. You would make choices from a sense of stability rather than desperation. You would carry yourself differently, perhaps more confidently, more generously, and with less hesitation. That shift in identity is the core of this principle. Your external reality eventually mirrors the person you have chosen to become internally. This practice begins in imagination. Each day, create a mental scene that implies your goal is complete. See yourself experiencing the results, perhaps signing documents for a new home, giving generously without fear, or feeling the relief of financial freedom. Immerse yourself in that scene until it feels natural, as though you are recalling a memory rather than forcing a fantasy. The more real it feels inside, the sooner your subconscious accepts it as true, and your actions, perceptions, and opportunities adjust accordingly. But living from the end goes beyond private visualization. It influences how you show up daily, even small choices. How you speak about money, how you treat yourself, how you handle setbacks, should align with the version of you who already has what you want. If you believe your future self is calm and resourceful, practice being calm and resourceful now. If your future self invests rather than clings to every penny, start cultivating that same mindset on your current scale. These consistent choices bridge the gap between where you are and where you intend to be. A common misconception is that this means spending recklessly or ignoring reality. It does not. Living from the end is not about financial irresponsibility. It is about mental alignment. You still act wisely, but you do so without the energy of fear or scarcity. For example, you may still create a budget, but instead of thinking, I have to restrict myself because I don't have enough, you think, I am organizing my resources like someone who values and multiplies what they have. The external action may look the same, but the internal state is entirely different, and that state determines your results. Skepticism is normal at first. Your senses will insist that you are imagining something that isn't real. Yet every physical achievement, every business, invention, or personal transformation started as something unseen. Someone decided to embody a vision before the evidence appeared. By staying consistent, they pulled the invisible into the visible. When you truly live from the end, you stop waiting for wealth to prove itself to you. You decide that it already exists for you, and you adjust your identity accordingly. Over time, life reorganizes to match that decision, circumstances shift, opportunities arise, and people appear to help bridge the gap you once thought was impossible. Acting and thinking as though you already possess the wealth you seek is not just a mindset. It is the key that turns possibility into reality. Faith in the unseen is the ability to trust in something before any physical evidence appears. It is the inner certainty that what you have imagined, desired, and aligned with is already yours in a reality beyond your senses, waiting to express itself. Most people only believe in what they can touch, see, or measure. But by the time something becomes visible, it is no longer creation. It is the result of what was once unseen. Everything physical began as an invisible possibility. A house starts as a blueprint, a symphony as a silent thought, and a fortune as an inner conviction. Without that prior belief, none of it could come into existence. The same principle applies to personal wealth, success, and transformation. If you wait to see it before you trust it, you remain trapped in the current conditions. Faith is the bridge between what you imagine and what you eventually experience. The challenge is that your senses will constantly argue with you. You might visualize abundance, yet your bank account shows lack. You may affirm prosperity, yet your job feels limiting. Your physical environment will always reflect past assumptions until new ones are allowed enough time to materialize. Faith is what holds you steady during that gap. It is the quiet conviction that although I cannot see it yet, it is already mine. This inner certainty changes how you act and respond. Without faith, small setbacks trigger fear. You panic, quit, or choose desperate actions that reinforce scarcity. With faith, you interpret challenges differently. A delayed payment is not proof of failure, it is just a moment in the process. A missed opportunity is not the end, it might be a redirection to something better. Faith allows you to remain calm and receptive instead of contracting in fear. To cultivate faith, you must learn to rely less on external validation and more on inner evidence. Ask yourself, what does my imagination show me? How does it feel when I live in that vision? That feeling of completion, peace, security, and certainty is itself proof that something real is forming. You cannot sustain that feeling for long without life eventually echoing it back to you. Emotional conviction is a creative force. Faith also requires releasing the belief that you must know the exact path. You might not see how wealth can come to you from your current job, location, or connections, but faith doesn't demand that you figure it out. It only asks that you trust it exists. Often, the actual route surprises you. New people, ideas, and opportunities show up from directions you never expected. If you insist on controlling every step, you block those possibilities. Faith keeps the door open. Another aspect of faith is persistence. Many give up too soon because they assume delay means denial. Yet in reality, the unseen takes time to reorganize the visible. Seeds need time to grow underground before they break through the soil. You do not dig them up each day to check if they are sprouting. You water them, trust the process, and wait. The same patience is necessary when cultivating wealth or any desired change. Living with faith in the unseen does not mean ignoring reality. You still take actions, pay bills, and handle responsibilities, but internally, you stop identifying with the current limitations as permanent. You know they are temporary shadows of an old belief system. Your focus stays on the reality you have chosen, rather than the one you are leaving behind. The moment you accept that what you cannot yet see is already yours, you step into a different level of power. You no longer chase, you allow. You no longer panic, you expect. Faith in the unseen is not weakness. It is the very foundation upon which visible wealth is built. Hold it long enough, and the world will have no choice but to show you what you already know. When you decide to create a wealthier, more abundant life, you often imagine exactly how it will arrive. Perhaps through a promotion, a specific investment, or one particular business idea. But life rarely moves in straight lines. Opportunities that can completely transform your circumstances may come from directions you didn't predict. Staying receptive means holding your vision firmly while remaining flexible about the path. If you insist it must happen in only one way, you may overlook faster, easier, or more expansive possibilities that are already moving toward you. Receptivity is not passive. It is an active, attentive state of mind. It's the ability to notice subtle openings, to hear an idea and consider it rather than dismiss it, to recognize when someone offers a connection that could lead to something more. Most people miss these signals because they are too focused on controlling their circumstances. They work harder, push more, and cling to their own limited strategies, all while ignoring the quiet nudges life provides. Think about times when something good happened unexpectedly, a job offer, a chance meeting, or an idea that appeared out of nowhere. Those moments were possible because you were at least partially open. If you had been completely rigid, too busy, too skeptical, or too certain it had to look a certain way, you might have rejected or missed them entirely. Receptivity is the willingness to say, this might be the answer, even if it doesn't match what I imagine. One of the main blocks to receptivity is fear. Fear makes you want control, and control makes you narrow your focus. You tell yourself, I'll only feel safe if it comes from this exact source, by this exact time, and through this exact method. That mental rigidity doesn't just close you off emotionally, it also limits your awareness. You fail to see the countless doors life is quietly opening because you're staring at one locked door. To stay receptive, you must practice curiosity rather than judgment. When an idea or opportunity comes, instead of quickly dismissing it as too small, too risky, or not what I planned, ask, could this be part of the way forward? What if this is the beginning of something bigger? This doesn't mean you blindly accept everything that comes your way. It means you evaluate it with openness rather than fear. Another key to receptivity is releasing the timeline. If you demand that wealth arrive by a specific date, your anxiety will grow each day. It doesn't. That anxious energy often causes you to make rushed decisions or overlook better opportunities that need more time to develop. Staying receptive means trusting that the right channels will appear when they are meant to, and that your job is to remain ready, not desperate, but ready. And this is where also inner belief drags you down. Receptivity also includes being willing to grow. Sometimes the opportunity you need comes disguised as a challenge. For example, you may want financial freedom, and life presents you with a chance to learn a new skill, meet new people, or take on responsibilities that feel uncomfortable. In that moment, you can either resist, clinging to what feels safe, or embrace it as part of the process that leads to the wealth you've imagined. Being open means you are willing to expand into the version of yourself that can handle greater abundance. Ultimately, staying receptive is about trust. You hold the end result firmly in your mind. You know that abundance is yours, but you allow life to surprise you with the path. You stop micromanaging the how and instead focus on being prepared, alert, and flexible. You follow intuitive nudges, take inspired actions, and listen when something inside you says, pay attention here. When you remain receptive, you turn life into an ally rather than a battle. You realize that massive wealth may not arrive exactly as you expect, but it will arrive if you stay open enough to recognize it. By relaxing your grip, opportunities you never imagined possible can reach you, and often they exceed the plans you once thought were the only way. Massive wealth is not something you chase, it is something you align with. By embodying abundance as a state of being, using imagination deliberately, releasing resistance, living from the end, trusting the unseen, and staying receptive, you place yourself in the exact position where prosperity can reach you. The shift happens first inside, and once you hold that inner certainty consistently, life has no choice but to reflect it in visible form. Thank you for listening. Stay open, stay steady, and allow the wealth that is already moving toward you to find its way into your life.